The early 90s was an interesting time at the theaters. There were films about surfing, films about movies, and films about adventures in faraway lands. So what would happen if you made a film about ninjas who surf in a faraway land? It may seem like a no-brainer idea, but would it lead to a no-brains movie? Find out as we attempt to prove to you that Surf Ninjas is not that bad. Welcome one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades in B movies. And we have a trifecta of terror today because we have on a few guests as we attempt to tackle 1993's Surf Ninjas. I can't believe I actually said that sentence, but here we are. Joining the show once again, as always, Greg from Movie Date Night. Greg, welcome back to the show. How you doing, man?
Always a pleasure.
Oh, man. And then joining us for the first time ever, the man who suggested this movie to us, Brendan Brizzy Sullivan from the Twitch stream of Super Smashed Bros. Brendan, welcome to the show for the first time. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm sound as an Irish pound. So, yeah, I'm doing really freaking well. It's great to be reunited with Greg on a podcast because we were on flops together.
Again?
No, I do not have cancer again.
You said that. You said anytime you say that, you have cancer or something. So,
no, it was my metaphor in life when I was battling through cancer. Every time our buddy David would hit me up, I would say I'm sound as an Irish pound. So I always say that whenever I'm saying I'm doing good. So that's what it is. It's not that I have cancer again. Don't worry. If I do, you'll be probably about the 10th person to know.
Speaking of which, Brizzy and I used to be on his podcast called Flops. Go check out the backlog for that.
Oh, man. I can't even remember which episode it was, but we actually referenced Flops and tried to get people to go listen to it because like there were some rules we were talking about or laws we were talking about. It's like, no, go listen to Flops. Okay, Brendan. You're the one who brought this monstrosity of a film to us.
Yeah, thanks.
What is it about Surf Ninjas that made you want to introduce us to it?
I just love everything about this movie. Like, it's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meets Three Ninjas meets surfing. So it's awful, but it's so bad it's good. It's kind of like Super Mario Brothers. Like that movie is god awful, but it's so good you cannot turn away. And by the way, you're not saying the title correctly for this movie. It's actually Surf Ninjas, brought to you by Sega.
Oh, dear God. There's so much Sega in this that also I have to... Let's remember right now, for the record, if you want to feel old, this film, this year is 30 years old.
That hurts me.
I think I just aged everybody on the show. But before we get into going down Surf Ninjas road, it is time to take this 1993 comedy, he says with quotation fingers, and trailerize it.
You liked him in Red Sonja. You tolerated him in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Now shake your head harder as Ernie Reyes Jr. attempts to rise up from his Californian upbringing to return to his homeland and become king in Surf Ninjas. Joining him on his adventure is the walking, talking Sega commercial that is Adam. And their best friend in high school, a 30-year-old Rob Schneider. Together with their cycloptic companion Zatch, they will attempt to free their homeland from the evil, menacing Leslie Nielsen. Yes, Leslie Nielsen. It's a wild adventure that will bring you back to a time when people said brah and dude. In 1993 Surf Ninjas. Rated PG for Pato-san's Guardian.
Yes.
That was excellent.
Oh, dear God, there's so much to unpack in this one. And yes, I actually did take a look. Rob Schneider was 30 years old playing a high school student when he made this film.
You know what else came out this year that Rob Schneider was in? Demolition Man.
Yep. Like the three she sells.
Yeah. So compare those two Schneiders back to back. I dare you.
The thing is, Demolition Man, I stand by the fact that Demolition Man may be it is guaranteed in my top 5 all-time Sylvester Stallone films.
Hell yes, it is.
I agree 100%. And not only is it a Rob Schneider that's 30 years old, but they made him look younger by dyeing his hair red.
Yeah.
And constantly having a bandana over the top of his head, to the point I was like, did Brizzy pick this because he thought Rob Schneider was a cancer survivor? Like, what is going on?
As I'm watching this, I'm like, that's not a do-rag, that's a do-not-rag. Just put it out there. This film stars Ernie Reyes Jr., Ernie Reyes Sr., Rob Schneider, Leslie Nielsen, Tone Loc, Kelly Hu, and the late John Carlin, who is probably best known as playing Harvey Lacey in Cagney and Lacey. This film was directed by Neil Israel. It was the last theatrical release he would ever direct. But funny enough, he actually was not the original person to direct this film. The film was written by Dan Gordon. He was actually signed on to direct as well. But according to IMDb, there's a story in here that basically they were basically introducing the guy who was initially cast as Wendell. And Bob Shea, the head of New Line Cinema, basically said, "What the hell is this? This guy is the worst actor possible. He's completely an idiot." To which Dan Gordon's response apparently was, "Did you read the script?" Apparently, Bob Shea didn't like that and fired him on the spot. Hence, Neil Israel. Now, the thing is, this film was originally written as an action-adventure film, but then Israel and Rob Schneider and a bunch of others did a rewrite and turned it into what you saw. So it wasn't supposed to be a campy comedy film. It was supposed to be like a straight action-adventure film. And then we got this. Now, I have to admit, as I'm watching this for the first time, I'm like, what's with the blue camo? Like, did they take that straight from Street Fighter?
Thank you. What the hell's with that blue camo? It works in one scene, maybe, when they're coming out of the ocean, and that's it.
Here's the funny thing, though. Those blue camo uniforms were actually the ones that were used in Street Fighter that starred Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes.
Yep. No, I was going to say,
they look familiar.
You know what? This is just, we stole it from the prop department because our budget ran out, and this is what we could get our hands on.
Well, it makes sense when you realize that Ernie Reyes Sr. was actually a stunt coordinator on Street Fighter. So,
oh my God, it's all coming together.
Apparently, he was paid in blue camo uniforms. That's what it looks like. Now,
when did Street Fighter come out? The next year. So
it was the next year. I
know this is in storage. I can go get these if we move fast.
Now, here's the thing. Fans of Ernie Reyes Jr. will probably hear the name Patusan and go, "Oh yeah, no, that sounds familiar." That's because the character Ernie Lee that he played in Sidekicks and The Last Electric Knight was the country that his character Ernie Lee came from. It's a fictional country that seems to be in all of his movies. But it's not the first time that the country name of Patusan came to be. It was originally a fictional country in the Joseph Conrad 1900 novel Lord Jim. So apparently someone's cribbing Joseph Conrad for Ernie Reyes Jr. movies. Most oddball connection I never thought I'd come across, but here we are. This film had a budget of $6.5 million according to Wikipedia, and according to IMDb, it had a worldwide, well, it was in blue camo uniforms apparently. But the worldwide gross was actually $4.9 million. So money loser.
Ouch.
But not as bad as you may think. And we have covered movies that have made less money. But the reason why we are here, not because Brendan hates us, but because over at Rotten Tomatoes, this film somehow has an audience score of 68%, but a tomatometer of 11. And I have to ask you, and Brendan, we're going to start with you. Who's got it right, the audience or the critics?
Oh, it's 100% the audience. Like, this is a movie where you can turn on and just enjoy it. Like, I introduced this to my girlfriend and she was dying laughing because of how ridiculous it is. Like, there's those movies out there that are just so bad that they come back around and become absolutely amazing. The critics I get, but come on, everybody is a critic. And this movie, it's got something for everybody. It's got the adult humor. You got the guy that looks scary because he's got an eye patch on. You got Leslie Nielsen in it, which brings in the old timers. And then you got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle guy, and also Jean-Claude Van Damme's right-hand man. So it has everything. It's hard to deny this movie. And then plus you got the younger kids in Sega. Like, I had that Game Gear. I would have loved it to predict the future for me. That would have been awesome.
Greg, when you got introduced to this movie as far as what we were going to talk about, and then you see 11% tomatometer, what's your initial reaction?
That 11% is too damn low. I agree. Like, not everything has to be a Shakespearean masterpiece. Sometimes you just want a dumb, fun movie. And this is what it says on the box. It is surf ninjas. It is ninjas who surf. Why not? Granted, like, they don't surf nearly enough for me in this film. Like, I would love it if they try to utilize that a little bit more, especially the moto surfing. They definitely should have been doing that a bit more in the film when they got to Padusan. But if you're going to ask me, I feel like 68% is maybe a little high, but not far.
Never.
I'm putting this like 62, 63. I feel like that's a good number for here. It's not by far a perfect movie, but honestly, it's a fun watch, especially if you're like how Brendan said, like, you're on a date and you're like, let's watch something fun and dumb that we can laugh at and just eat popcorn and enjoy. This will do the trick.
I can just this has to be like the icebreaker, because Brendan's like, yeah, I introduced this to my girlfriend kind of thing, and she was laughing. If you introduce this to the wrong girl, however, they may go running. I'm just putting it out there. There's a warning there. But let's get
there is. There is.
It's better this than show it going full, like, deep and like, let me show you this film called The Room.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing. The girl that I introduced this to, my girlfriend, she literally said, I like bad movies. So I was like, okay, perfect. Have you heard of a movie called Surf Ninjas? And she said no. And even her best friend was like, you're Filipino. How have you not seen this movie? And even a buddy today, when I reposted your tweet, said, oh my God, this brought Filipinos into the pop culture world, even though most of Americans thought that they were Chinese. So, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong, unfortunately. But yeah, this brought Filipinos onto the big screen that most people did not know about.
I did not realize that we were going to be talking about Surf Ninjas as cultural zeitgeist, but here we are. But
it's that important of a film.
Let's get to the breakdown of this one. And we're going to start with Ernie Reyes Jr. as Johnny, the prodigal king of Patusan. Brendan, I'm going to go to you first. How was Ernie Reyes Jr. for you?
He was great. I actually really did enjoy him. There is one guy that stole this whole movie on, and he is my MVP, but it's not Ernie Reyes. I always love watching Ernie Reyes in a lot of the movies, especially like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Secret of the Ooze, Bloodsport, a bunch of Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. Apparently him and Jean-Claude are like best bros because he's in all of his freaking movies. But he was great. I thought he was entertaining. I loved watching his martial arts. At times, though, it was slow. You say surf ninjas, and him and his father are the only true two ninjas you really see fighting. Everybody else is just flopping everywhere. So he was entertaining. Somebody could have possibly been better, but he was also the executive producer on this film too. So I liked him. I thought he was great. I thought that they could have found somebody better for his dad, but I thought that Ernie Reyes was actually really funny. Timing was pretty good. Martial arts was excellent. Yeah, just his comedic timing, especially when it was girls gotta bail, you better bail. Like that comedic timing was great.
I do have to point out though, in my research as I was, getting prepped for this episode, with Neil Israel as director, apparently his focus when he was directing the film was more on getting the comedy parts down pat, and the action fighting scenes he basically let it be a one taker, which I'm like, you have a film about people who are supposed to be ninjas who can fight, and you're one taking these things. You have Ernie Reyes Jr., who, yes, I mean, I'm going to age myself here by saying I remember watching Sidekicks when it was on TV. He is a phenomenal talent, and you're going to one take his fight scenes
because he's that good.
Oh, well, I was about to say, look at the scene when the ninjas crash the Burger Hut. His father has to take 2 kicks to kick down the window. Like the board doesn't break the first time. And instead of reassembling it, they're like, oh no, that's good enough. Let's just keep it. He literally has to break it down twice.
It's almost like, have you ever seen the, what's that film? Ed Wood with Johnny Depp, where they're going over the life of the actual director, Ed Wood. He goes like, hey, Torg had trouble getting through the door. Now see, in real life, Torg would struggle with that every day. We're going to leave that in. So just like here, the dad, he would have actually needed to do 2 kicks. So we're going to leave it in because that's realistic, boy. That's extra money for our value.
But it's like when you get those wrestling spots where the wrestler has to kind of sit on top of the ropes while the guy is, getting prepared for the leap and catch. Like, yeah, you look like you're really hurting. You're just killing time at this point.
Let me stagger into place.
Exactly. Yeah. Greg, how was Ernie Reyes Jr. for you?
I love Ernie Reyes Jr. I used to rewatch Secret of the Ooze, aka TMNT 2, just for him because he was kind of my in. It's like you have the 4 turtles plus Keno. It's like I could be a Keno if I practiced enough, Plus also, like, let's not forget his minor but fun part in Rush Hour 2 as Zing. Like, I love the Rush Hour series, and I always enjoy finding him, especially in smaller bits. But I thought he was great in here. I have 0 complaints, and like, I'm not going to tip my hand early, but he's in the running for my MVP for this film for sure.
Oh, yeah. And, Brennan nailed it in the fact that he has really, really good comedic chops. Like, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say some of the jokes in this land kind of flat because they feel really shoehorned in. But anytime Ernie Reyes Jr. was in on it, it felt natural. It felt like a good joke at that point. Some of the other stuff just felt like, hey, it's a quip for quip's sake. He really did kind of hold this film together, and that's saying quite a bit there. But let's now talk about his young brother Adam, as played by Nicholas Cowan. Greg, back to you. How was Nicholas Cowan for you?
Here's where it's a little bit different for me. I know that people harp a lot on younger child actors saying, oh, they're so annoying, they're pitchy, they're whiny. I don't feel like this actor is that bad. It's just he's not bringing enough like punch with his delivery to make me really, enjoy it. It's fine. It's like middle of the road for me. It's not super bad, but like it's kind of bland for me. And as much as like he does have a bit of like witty banter with his brother in the film, like I really, once again, feel that Ernie Reyes Jr. is the one doing the heavy lifting, and he's essentially almost like the straight man so that Ernie Reyes Jr. can deliver the good line afterwards.
I can see that. And, to draw a parallel with Ghostbusters Answer the Call, which I can't believe I'm doing this in this episode, but here we are, you needed someone to be the straight person in this. You needed someone to not be Captain Quips all the time. With Ghostbusters Answer the Call, everyone wanted to be the Venkman. Someone has to be the Egon. And I think Nicholas Cowan actually was a fairly decently sincere kid. And, I get that his entire plot motivation is hold Sega Game Gear and see the future. But I do like the chemistry between him and Ernie Reyes Jr. They felt like brothers. They felt like family, and that's a tribute to both of them. But Brendan, how was Adam, the younger brother, for you?
I actually agree with like both of what you and Greg are saying. Like there were times where this kid totally missed the mark. My prime example is like near the end of the movie where it shows on his Game Gear that he's like celebrating that he finally won the game and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden you cut to him and he's supposed to do the same like celebration and he just misses. Like it does not hit right. It just looks stupid. But on the other hand, he hits the mark on the fact that he has that smart ass mouth as a kid will. Like he just says stuff that a kid will. The whole psych jokes are amazing. Like you have no humor, okay? Like that is something a kid his age would do. So I mean, he hit it, but like you said, when you got two heavy hitters like Rob Schneider in this movie and Ernie Reyes that are hitting that comedic, joking, whimsical feet, and the kid has to play the straight edge. He did it pretty good considering he was only 11 years old, maybe a little bit older than that. Like I thought he did pretty good. Needed some grooming here and there, but other than that, I enjoyed him at times. At times I thought he fell short, but I mean, what are you going to do with a kid actor? And he held his own compared to those two guys. He held his own pretty well, in my opinion.
I have to ask, okay, because one of the big things about Adam's whole, he wants to drive a car. He wants to drive a car. And I get that.
An 11-year-old boy doesn't want to drive a car. Yeah.
Exactly. But then he gets his chance to drive the Jeep in Patusan after he instantly masters a stick shift.
Mm-hmm.
He's a total gamer.
He's
a total gamer.
You know that kid's gone to the arcade for like Cruising USA and just put on manual because he knows that gets you like a 10% speed boost and then just mastered that with the clutch.
I'm a grown-ass man. I can't drive a stick shift. How the hell does this kid drive a stick shift on day one?
It's that double clutch like in the game where if you press the gas pedal twice, you get the extra boost and your car flips up.
You get the fire out the tailpipe.
Like, I've seen how I used to drive cars in video games. Trust me, if I'm taking my Sega skills to drive in a real car, people are dying because I'm running them over because I don't know how to drive because I can't drive a stick shift.
Into a tree. Yeah,
exactly. Right. And then the car burns on fire. Then it wiggles its way back to the center of the road and you keep driving a la Spy Hunter.
Also, shout out to the Sega Game Gear. This is only one of two movies I know that it appears in, the other one being Airheads.
It's funny.
Oh my God.
It's funny you mentioned that, though. Here's the thing. It wasn't supposed to be Sega. It was originally supposed to be the Nintendo Game Boy, to the point of someone came in for their audition with their own Game Boy to audition with it. But the thing is, apparently Sega actually helped finance some of this film. So his entire character plot point is product placement.
No, I also heard the reason it's a Sega is because that was in color. They did some test shots with the Game Boy, and it was the OG Game Boy, like the brick, as we used to call it. Mm-hmm. And that was only like this weird, like black and kind of green screen, and it just wasn't showing. Like you couldn't tell what he was looking at for this little prophetic visions. So like this is not working out. They tried the Sega, which had a higher fidelity, slightly better graphics, and more importantly, color, and that came across for audiences.
I will say, though, the other movie that comes to mind that features a Sega, Chasing Amy, where they're playing NHL on their Sega.
Oh, my God. I totally forgot about that.
Right? Yeah. How often does the whale win, right? You got to go with it. Okay.
This is your new podcast called Video Game Movies, where we talk about video movies.
Oh, one day we're going to go down Warcraft Road, because that's got to happen.
I am here for that. Horde all the way, baby.
Okay. I'm going to need a Snickers bar for this one here.
Okay, wait. You take a break. You take a break real quick, because I got to admit, you said that this movie was cost about $6.5 million, correct?
Indeed,
somewhere
I did.
Around there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I bet you anything, $4 of that $1 million went into the special effects for the Sega, because that is the best video game special effects in a movie during that era I have ever seen. True. Like, that was so good.
I mean, it's not like video games haven't been like a plot point and product placement all at the same time. All you have to do is go back and take a look at The Wizard, and that was basically a commercial for Nintendo.
With the glove?
Yeah, absolutely.
With the glove, which is Leslie Nielsen's robotic arm.
Yeah. And,
yeah, it is.
Right? And
Hey, Brizzy, the $4 million for this budget went into the plastic mold onto Leslie Nielsen's face.
And his phone.
In his phone.
Oh dear God, that brick of a phone. With the
We're not there yet. Jason's gonna get there, but when we get to Leslie Nielsen, aka Colonel Chang, we're about to go off. So.
Colonel Chi.
Okay, but we have to talk about Rob Schneider, who plays
Fine.
Iggy. Okay, I need.
Oh, do not badmouth Rob Schneider, Greg.
I
do not badmouth him.
I need to get this out there. The man's 30. Playing a high school, 30. If you have a 30-year-old at a high school, he's either a narc or a perv. That's basically it. He's 30. I get, like, at the time, people would joke around about, like, Beverly Hills 90210 about older kids playing high school students. But the man's 30 and looks it.
He does.
But
at the same time, I think you can argue he is 30 in the film because his friends are like, you don't really know how to surf, do you, buddy? No. And he's like kind of dumb. So what if he just got held back a lot? So he's still trying to get his GED.
You're absolutely correct on that, Greg. And also, I want to point out this fact. You have a movie called with surf in the title, and you have a kid that grew up in Pacifica. Mind you, Pacifica is one of the biggest surfing spots in California, right next door to Mavericks. Like, Mavericks is the Surf USA. And you don't have the dude surf. Like, I am almost positive Rob Schneider knows how to surf. He grew up in Pacifica. I'll put money on that.
To quote Zach in this, was there any way to shut the prattling monkey up? Because because it felt like
I would if I had a knife, but they're too expensive. Apparently,
I ain't got no knife. Can't shut him up. Here's the problem, though. He had a hand apparently in rewriting the script, and at times it felt that he was almost hijacking the film. This is Ernie Reyes Jr.'s film. There's no question about it. He is the star of this film, the central point. And it really felt a lot like Iggy was kind of not hogging the spotlight, but definitely trying to steal the show.
Well, it's funny you say that because even his character literally tries to make it about him, going like, but I'm actually the prince and they're just the decoys, right?
Yeah. I mean, I get Rob Schneider for comic relief's sake, but it felt overkill at this point. Brandon, what are your thoughts on Rob Schneider on this one? Seeing how you were pretty much ready to defend him.
Oh, I totally disagree with you guys. I thought that Rob Schneider was the perfect support because you had the straight edge with Adam, the younger brother, and also Ernie Reyes Sr. And I thought that Rob Schneider, like you said, he probably was that idiot kid in high school that was kind of like a what's his name? The Lincoln commercial guy. All right. Oh God.
His name Matthew McConaughey.
Yes. So he was the Matthew McConaughey of the high school, but he just never graduated and he just remained there. I thought his comedic timing was great. I thought the whole premise of it trying to be about him was fantastic because there are guys that are like that everything around them could be about somebody else, but somehow they make it about them. But all you can do is laugh because the person is a good guy and like he will always have your back. So I thought that Rob Schneider was freaking phenomenal. I loved almost all his lines in the movie. Each time he was cracking me up, and it felt like he was setting up Ernie Reyes Jr. for a lot of his comic relief, his dad's comic relief, and I don't know the actor's name, but the black guy in the movie too. I felt like he was setting him up. Yeah. So I thought he was setting up everybody. Granted, he might have been taking away some of the scenes, but when you got a purebred in the house in a horse race, you don't want to keep that thing locked up. You want to let it go. And Ernie Reyes worked perfectly with him, I feel like, especially when they're walking through the jungle and they're making it look like an African safari BBC episode or something like that. So it worked out great, I thought.
See, I mean, I guess my standpoint on Rob Schneider is this: like, he works in Demolition Man because the comedic support is in small doses and properly placed. But here, it's not necessarily that kind of comedic relief. It's almost like Joe Pesci in Lethal Weapon 3 as he's screaming at everyone about the drive-thru and what they do to you there. But Greg, was it too much, though, for you as far as Rob Schneider goes?
Yeah, I feel like I do agree with Brizzy in that Rob Schneider is a good choice for this role, and he is a fun act. I just feel like, yeah, if they would have pulled it back a bit, I feel like they either needed to pull it back a bit, focus more on the whole, oh, if I say what if, and then something happens. I thought that was a fun little thing. I don't think the whole thing of him going, oh, I'm actually the prince, right? That's annoying. That's him being like kind of egotistical. I think it's funnier if he honestly, his character is, I believe that if I say what if, then something happens, so I'm magic. So that's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm bringing my magic, you know? Or, and I know they couldn't do this for a kid's movie, but considering the fact that he's supposed to be a surfer, and it's a bit of a stereotype, but I kind of thought if this was a PG-13 movie, make him a stoner. I think then he's a perfect fit. You're like, oh, no, it's actually me, right? I'm the prince. Okay, cool. You know?
He's a stoner without saying he's a stoner.
Yeah, just I feel like you needed one of those two. Either amp up the I think I have magic powers, guys, and I don't know how to control it, but he's an idiot, or make him a stoner, and then he's a perfect character for me. Other than that, he's a little annoying, but I do enjoy him in here. Yes. With
the what if stuff, though, I have to now pontificate and hypothesize. Is Rob Schneider trying to become the Watcher in season 2 of Marvel's What If?
What do you mean trying to become?
He might already be.
He is in this movie.
He is the Watcher. Moving on. Ernie Reyes Sr. as Zatch, or as he was once referred to as Winky the One-Eyed Black Belt.
So many one-eyed jokes. So many.
Okay, Briz, how was our cycloptic companion for you?
My cycloptic friend.
Well, if he had one eye on me, I would be okay. Actually, if he had two eyes on me, I wouldn't be okay. But since he only had one, I'm okay with him. Like, I thought he, out of everybody in this movie, was the lowest of the totem pole. Like, I liked his character. I thought it was absolutely hysterical. They're like, oh, how can we make him look rugged? Let's put an eye patch over him. Yeah, that would do it. And like him being super serious all the time and then making the last crack jokes, like I thought he was decent, but the acting skills weren't quite there. Ninja fight scenes were actually pretty cool, in my opinion. I felt like he had to slow down a lot of his motions, though. If you watch compared to when him and his son fight, like that scene to me, like was the whole movie. Like that's the reason why it was called had ninjas in the title, because that fight scene was sick as hell. And but yeah, I think him as comedic acting and just as acting as in general was the like lowest part of this film. Not to say that he wasn't bad. It was just like compared to everybody else, he was bottom tier.
All right, Greg, how was the Patusani Nick Fury for you?
Here's the thing. I've had a lot of discussions with my wife, Lauren, who she actually went to college and graduate school for like a writing degree. So we've talked about like, you know, different parts of writing. And he kind of fills the role of what we call the messenger, where he's the one who announces, oh, you have a summons from the king. You know, he's the one who kicks the plot off. Usually you don't keep the messenger around. Once he's delivered his message and like essentially like got you, or like the transporter got the characters to where they need to go, they leave. They don't have a purpose in the film anymore or the story. And yet they kept him around. So I think as much as he fills his role well of being the stoic kind of like serious warrior who's like, no, this is real. You have a destiny to fulfill. Once they got to the island, something should have happened to remove him from the party because you don't need him anymore. Kind of going a bit more topical with the recent current D&D open game license scandal, kind of, barring from that. He is the DM's character saying like, okay, I want to walk you guys through this. My DM's character will be there to protect you in case you get in trouble. But then once you guys figure out how to play this game, then you've got it on your own. So it's just, I feel like he overstayed his welcome. He should have been gone once they got to the island and maybe back for the final castle fight. But yeah, I didn't enjoy him as much.
One thing that threw me off a little bit here is that at the beginning of the film, he's the narrator. He's kind of introducing us to Johnny, thereby implying that he is like the storyteller. He's, it would be like if we're watching Star Wars and Obi-Wan is telling us about Luke in voiceover before we actually get to meet Obi-Wan. The thing is, this film was supposed to be a straight action adventure film. And I think in that format, Ernie Reyes Sr. would kill it. Absolutely kill it. But it became like a quip fest. It became a 1993 Rob Schneider vehicle comedy. Not to rip on Schneider again, but I mean, Ernie Reyes Sr. would have been perfect in probably the original script. And I would have loved to have seen what the original script looked like. I bet you anything. Yeah, Zach would probably fit that much better. Again, like he fits the role. He does have some decent quips in there, and more often than not, he's just basically complaining about Rob Schneider, of which I kind of concur. But he's great at the action scenes. He's great with Ernie Reyes Jr., obviously. I just think the script wasn't what he signed up for. And that kind of hurts the character, despite the character being fairly good. John Carlin, who played Mac, the boy's surrogate father. Greg, back over to you. How was Mac? I know it's a limited role, but how was he for you?
I have no opinion on this character because he's barely in the film. He's like there for one scene. He gets kidnapped or whatever, and then he's gone for the entire thing. He's the Your Princesses is Another Castle character. So like, he's fine. I don't have any other thing to talk about for him. So instead, I'm going to use this time on my floor to talk about how they talk about the. Ernie Reyes Sr., his character talks about like, oh, the most priceless thing in the world that has no value, the Patusan knives or whatever. And then they have this whole great riff about the knives and like, oh, if I had a knife, They get to the cave, and am I wrong? But there's no knives. It's swords.
It's swords. It's nunchucks.
It's not knives. It's swords.
I just love the fact that you actually started calling him Ernie Hudson.
He's not a How dare you? That's like saying a cow's a dog you can drink from. Like, it's not.
Oh boy! Okay.
This was what our buddy David had to deal with constantly. You're just lucky, Jason, that me and Greg are not teaming up against you right now.
Well, that's because Greg agreed with me with Rob Schneider. But Brandon, well, here's the thing though. Even if Greg did, my wife would probably side with Greg anyway. So I completely get that.
I've heard.
Yeah.
I've heard a couple episodes. I would love you guys, all three of you together. It's really funny.
Yeah, Carrie was smart and fell asleep during Surf Ninjas, so I don't blame her on that one. She's like, what the heck is going on? Okay.
I gotta say one thing about the character we're talking about, by the way. There's a scene, I'm looking through the photos at IMDb of this movie, right? And there's a scene near the end where the son and quote father, his adoptive father, are reunited. And at this point, the son has gone full warrior mode. He's got like no shirt on, bandana over his head, ready to kick ass. And he's like ripped, like the guy who played Kino, he is ripped. Meanwhile, his dad is there in like a tank top with the biggest beer gun. It's like, at what point is your son working out? And you're like, maybe I should do a push-up? I don't know. You think his son working out would have motivated him to try.
Nope. Look at every high school football player in the South.
That's true.
Okay, Brendan, how was Mac for you?
I kind of agree with Greg. Like, he didn't have the big enough part to make any kind of impression. Like, the parts that he was in I thought were pretty funny. Like when he yells at Rob Schneider for always making food and then like takes all the food away from him and then yells at him for wearing his boxer shorts. I thought that was pretty funny. But other than that, like he didn't really have much else to give. I loved him in the fight scene because it was just like a fat man fighting, but like it could have been better, but it wasn't bad by any sense of the means.
I will say, like, the connection between him and Ernie Reyes Jr. and Nicholas Cowan, that actually made a good, reason for them to go to Patusan, because Johnny doesn't want to be king. He doesn't really remember, Patusan. So it's not a big deal for him. But the minute they have Mac, it makes sense. And then there's Kelly Hu, who played Romay, the woman who was supposed to marry him. For the record, by the way, she's supposed to be marrying this high school Johnny kind of guy. Kelly Hu is 25 when this film was being made. Ernie Reyes Jr. is 21. Yet both are still younger than Rob Schneider. But Brendan, how was Kelly Hu for you?
I liked her. I actually really liked her. Like the transition of her character in such a short period of time, I thought was really cool. I think that was also when I realized in my life and in my pubescent years when I watched this movie, like I want a woman that could be sexy as she is and also kick ass like she can and be like dominant and be like, hey, like this is what I want to do. You're either going to be cool with it or you're not. And so I thought I liked her character. I liked the way that she performed it. I love the scene where she says you don't even know what she says. And she goes, you'll find out on your wedding day. Like if my girlfriend said that to me. Would she notice
the guys into the bushes to beat him up? Yeah.
Yeah. Like if my girlfriend says that to me, I'm like, all right, here's the ring right now.
Like, I'm sticking around to find out.
Yeah. Greg, how was Romay for you?
I liked it. I just going to echo everything that Brizzy just said. Yeah, I thought she was a fun character. She does have a good arc where she suddenly goes like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to like conform to like my cultures and society's like demands on me. Maybe I want to do my own thing. So she's a fun, prototypical, strong female character like that. I also just kind of like the fact that she closes the Ninja Turtles loop because she also voices Karai in the Ninja Turtles TV series. So that's nice. Pretty fun. Also, I just found out now looking up her Wikipedia, she, in the same year this movie came out, won Miss Hawaii USA. So like, damn. Yeah, she's a beautiful lady. And I remember being a young boy watching this film, like having feelings about her, because yeah, she's really pretty.
I'm going to pontificate an idea with you guys because I agree that Romay is actually a very good character. Kelly Hu played her perfectly, but they needed to expand on her character a bit more.
I agree.
Follow my train of thought here, okay? Johnny does not want to be the king of Patusan. He's there to rescue his surrogate father, basically. Romay doesn't want to basically conform to what Patusani culture dictates that she should be in marrying this person, like, or basically being promised that. So if they had turned it around, so when Johnny, by the way, if you haven't figured it out by now, listeners, spoilers like a mofo, but we're kind of late for that now, but here we are. So when Johnny basically says the Patusani hierarchy is obliterated and be free kind of thing, I think it would have been better if Johnny stepped down to go live the life that he enjoyed and Romay became the queen of Patusan, because that would then expand on her basically going against traditional Patusani culture and, basically creating a better life for women of Patusan. Like I get it's a, fictional country, but I think it would have been a cool turn, especially in 1993.
I love that you're a Patusani suffragette. That's great.
Hey, you know what? All for Patusan. All for Patusan. Okay. The voice that stands out all by itself. Tone Loc as Lieutenant Spence. Greg, to you, how was Tone Loc for you? By the way, I have to point out, Tone Loc also younger than Rob Schneider.
No,
Yep.
that cannot be true.
Oh, yes, he is.
What? How? Okay, how? Look it up. I need to know this.
What,
before
29?
It's not a big difference. It's only like a couple of years, but yes, Tone Loc younger than Rob Schneider.
Oh my god, that's insane. Sorry, just Anyways, sorry, you just frazzled my brain with that knowledge. You broke me. So Tone Loc, I always love him. I don't know what it is. He's not the best actor in the world, granted, but anytime he is in something, especially from my childhood, I take notice. And I can give you two examples off the top of my head that I'm sure all your listeners can appreciate of Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. He's the one that Ace Ventura does the butt talking to. And he is also in Fern Gully. He is the rapping monitor lizard who almost eats the guy who gets turned into a fairy. Tone Loc he resonates with me, and I don't know what it is, but I like him. And honestly, yeah, his best part in the entire movie for this movie is when they're talking about the knives, and he just has the one quip like, "Can anyone silence this chatty monkey? I would if I had a knife."
I can't hear knives and not think the Golden Child going, I want the knife.
Exactly. Yes. But just, I don't know why, but for me, he just slots in so perfectly into this movie. I can't describe it to you, but it's almost like when you just have a puzzle piece and you're like, I don't know, I've been looking for this piece forever, and you just grab a random piece and you slap it down and it fits, and you're like, I feel so great. That's it. That was the piece, and I'm so happy we found it.
I will say he definitely fits the comedic tone of this. I think if you were to put a more serious actor like an Ernie Hudson, because Ernie Hudson apparently can only play cops and Ghostbusters, but it's just one of those things where if you put someone like an Ernie Hudson into that role, it takes away from the comedy aspect, which is what the movie eventually became. I think Tone Loc definitely fits that more fun vibe. But Brendan, how was Tone Loc for you?
I wish we had more of him in this film. Like everything that Greg said was like spot on. Like and what you said, Jason, he just fitted perfectly. And I kind of wish like he had more. Perfect example of how well he fitted was the whole like coming out of the boat door and saying like, "How did you get your handcuffs off?" "I swallowed a key." "How did you know that you were going to need it?" He goes, "I swallowed it every Tuesday."
Oh,
like,
that's right. Yeah.
Like the way that he says it makes it sound like, what, you don't? Like any other guy that like an Ernie Hudson that would play it, he would have played that straight and wouldn't have that like, what, you guys don't? You should, because you never know when you're going to need it. Like everything about him, just the sarcasticness, the voice, the sympathy, the empathy that he has for these kids, even when like he knows he screwed up, saying that your dad just bailed on you. Like he looks at them after Ernie says like, "My dad wouldn't bail on us." He's like, "Yeah, you know, right." He got the facial expression to go well with this movie also as well.
It's come to that part of the show
where you disagree with me and Greg and we jump all over your back.
No. It's time to talk about Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, buddy.
Yes.
First of all, who had pictures of Leslie Nielsen that got him into this movie?
Right.
Just need to put it out there. Also, as far as writing goes, Chi is energy. Just putting it out there, and we have basically a cyborg version of Leslie Nielsen. But, Brendan, Leslie Nielsen as Colonel Chi for you. How was he?
Leslie Nielsen can do no wrong in any movie he is in, and I mean, even including the superhero movie in this statement. I thought, like, he went overboard in this movie, and it fitted this movie. He probably showed up to set, and they're like, "This is what you're gonna wear," and he said, "Got it. I'm gonna do the crap out of this movie, and I'm gonna eat every ounce of every scene," and he does. He just goes overboard so hard. A white man, the whitest man in show business, and you have him dressing up as a warrior samurai that turns into a robot. By the way, Greg, you know this guy. the guy with the glasses on YouTube that does all the Nostalgia Critic.
Yeah.
He did this movie, and he points out the fact that when Colonel Chi gets stampeded on by the elephant, he actually falls into the elephant instead of falling away from the elephant.
Yep.
So, and I mean, just everything that Leslie Nielsen did in this movie, I thought was absolutely hysterical. He went totally overboard, and it fitted the whole answering machine.
The answering machine. It's a villain with voicemail. I love that. He doesn't have his own people to get his own messages. It's just, this is Colonel Chi. Leave a message or I'll kill you. You know.
And that's the thing. We're all old enough where we actually remember having to run to the phone. And God forbid if you were sitting on the toilet and the phone was ringing.
Yep.
Like, you had to run to go get that stuff. Most kids won't understand that. Like, you had, oh God, I just remember everybody, my mom and dad just yelling at me, get the phone! Get the phone!
With the portable phones that had an antenna like it was a fencing sword. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Greg, how was the Patusani Phantom for you?
He was the wild card of this film. Like, even as a kid, I was like, why is he a robot? I don't understand this. Like, does that feel like it's necessary? Like, I get the whole, like, oh, he short circuits at the end fight thing, but like, I feel that Ernie Reyes Jr. was good enough to beat him without having to short circuit him, you know? He's just a random comedic bit. And once again, it feels like, what's the biggest name we can get for this? Well, Leslie Nielsen's in between Naked Gun movies at the time. Okay, get him. It kind of felt like, okay, get him kind of thing. The one thing I do want to point out that I think is really fascinating is that all the promotional stuff for this film does not have him as a cyborg. If you look at all of the posters for the film, he has no cybernetic enhancements. Because throughout the film, his entire half of his face is almost like Phantom of the Opera style, covered with like this black, like kind of like plastic or like polyurethane like face covering to show like, oh, I'm part machine. But like none of the actual photos for the film promoting it show that. It's just Leslie Nielsen in like his outfit. So I don't know at what point, if that's like a last minute like note or like writing, or they did reshoots for that, but it's just fascinating to like have that kind of archaeological detail of like something changed last minute for that decision to be made.
I will say, based on the whole, cyborg type face mask, Phantom of the Opera type thing that you mentioned, it's hard to actually identify Leslie Nielsen as Leslie Nielsen at a first quick glance. So I can see why they wouldn't do that in the marketing materials. But I'm so glad you brought up the short circuiting thing here. And I get that it's a plot point for Ernie Reyes Jr. to win the day kind of thing. If his robotic parts are so susceptible to the water that he gets mad at people for like splashing or anything, why does he have so much water in his underground torture pit?
Yes.
This seems like a design
take
flaw.
over a coastal nation.
That's like, I can't swim and yet I'm going to live by the ocean. No. Or I can't surf and I'm going to be in a film called Surf Ninjas, Rob Schneider. Yeah. It's just, the thing with Leslie Nielsen is he is an absolute comedic genius. He absolutely is. Naked Gun, Airplane, like basically anything you put him in, he's funny as hell. I wish they gave him more.
Yeah.
I wish they had tossed some of the time that was spent, although the knife jokes were funny, but some of the lesser hitting jokes, I wish they had spent some more of that time in getting us to appreciate Leslie Nielsen's Colonel Chi. Because here's the thing, he's on so little that when Ernie Reyes Jr. finally wins, I'm like, okay, fine. I'm not, yay, movie's over. I wish they had made Colonel Chi funnier and more prevalent in the film, so that when Johnny does win, it means something.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
He's really like the bookend of the film. He's in the very beginning and then he's at the very end, and he's barely in the middle. Like Brizzy said, there's that one moment with the elephant, but that's it.
Yeah. I have to ask, because we've talked about how this film changed tonality from the moment it was written to the moment it was finished. So, Greg, going to start with you. Would you have preferred this as a straight action adventure film, or do you think it's better as the comedy that it ended up being?
I think it's better as the comedy to end up being, because like how you said with your kind of trailerize it thing or at the beginning, this is in an era where like we have movies like Three Ninjas, you know, where like ninjas were big, and, you know, also you need stuff for kids films. So I think this kind of hits its perfect little niche. We've talked about a few changes I would have made, but for the most part, I wouldn't change much.
Briz, how about you?
In all honesty, I would actually be really intrigued to see what this movie would have been if it was just a pure action movie. But then again, like Greg said, like this, at the time that this movie was being made, this was all the rage. Like you had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles not only as the movie, but the cartoon. Then you had like Street Sharks, Motor Mice from Mars. I mean, everybody was on that train of like ninja stuff. Groups coming together, like 3 or 4 guys coming together, like it fit perfectly, and they always wanted that comedic justice to it. So it worked great. I love this movie. Like anytime I'm feeling down, I will turn on this movie. So it's very hard for me to say it, but I'm just really curious because I'm always wondering what it would be like. I'm kind of curious of what this movie would have been like if it was that straight action movie, because I think it would still have been pretty good. I mean, the storyline's there. Just the guts of it was taken out.
Mm-hmm. I do have to point out as well, because you got, Greg, you know, I'm a musician, you know, performing musician. So I had to take a look at the soundtrack because, of course, you have Tone Loc in the film. And yes.
I remember there's a couple sound beats in here that are insane. I remember specifically when they get to the island, there's like some track that plays, and I'm like, what is this that I'm listening to?
Okay, so Tone Loc is on the soundtrack. That makes sense. Total sense. Marky Mark is on the soundtrack. It's 1993. That kind of makes sense. Bad Company is on the soundtrack.
No, that can't be true.
Company is on the soundtrack. King Missile is on the soundtrack. King Missile, the band that wrote the song Detachable Penis, is on the soundtrack. This seems like the most schizophrenic soundtrack I think I've ever seen. Like, Tone Loc makes sense. Marky Mark makes sense. Bad Company?
Well, the other one, the Detachable Penis, I bet you Leslie Nielsen wish he had that when he was jerking himself off and making vinegar strokes.
Yeah, he does that in the fight, by the way. He literally like grabs his own penis and like goes, whoa, like when he's short circuiting with his hand. And it's like, what derailment did we just have in this movie?
What is happening? Oh man. Okay.
Even the character that Ernie Reyes Jr. plays in the moment is like, wait, what's happening?
Okay. I sometimes the conversation goes in a direction where you're just like, I can't believe we just had that conversation, but yes, we did.
We broke the host. Good job, Percy. We can leave now.
Yes, we did it again.
Okay, it has come time. So, Brendan, you brought this movie to us, so we're going to start with you. Who is your MVP of 1993's Surf Ninjas?
Y'all gonna hate me, but it's Rob Schneider. I freaking loved him in this movie. It was the first time being introduced to him, because after that, my mom told me that he was a Pacifica kid, which is where I basically grew up. And then I started seeing him in more and more movies like Home Alone 2 and all those Adam Sandler movies. So like Rob Schneider was it for me, just because almost every word he said, I was starting to laugh at. And it reminded me, like when he turned to Uncle Iggy, it reminded me of John Leguizamo, like in The Pest. Like it's just so freaking funny, and I loved him in it. And yeah, it was him by far to me, because I was actually going to ask you guys, why is it not Rob Schneider? And you guys gave me the answers, but I still think you're wrong.
All right, Greg, who's your MVP of Surf Ninjas?
Okay, this is going to be weird, but stick with me on this.
We just talked about Leslie Nielsen wanking it with his robot hand, so how much more weird can it get?
For me,
It's the robot hand is the MVP of this film for Greg.
no. For me, the MVP isn't even technically in the movie. It's the poster for this movie.
Yes.
Now, there's a very specific poster, though, I want to reference. The main poster for this film, and let me describe it for audiences who don't see it right now, like you're driving, but like go get on IMDb and look at the posters. So the main one is the three people, the three boys, kind of like, well, two boys and a man, right? Right, because if Rob Schneider's there, riding on a surfboard, holding weapons, smiling while Leslie Nielsen is like crashing in the waves below. They do have the whole like New Line Cinema production, blah, 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 but it's like in an ocean blue against the ocean. You can barely read it. But if you keep scrolling, you will see a far superior poster. It is a French poster, mind you, because I do speak French and I can read these here. And this poster, it's a bit more of a kind of like a vibrant color tone, but it is Surf Ninjas. It's just General Chi and Ernie Reyes Jr. And General Chi is choking Ernie Reyes Jr. as he rides backwards on the surfboard. And he's got his hand out like, and it's just Surf Ninjas. That's a cool poster. That to me is the MVP because that's kind of like what you want from this film. So my MVP, as much as I do like Rob Schneider, Tone Loc, and everyone else in this film, that poster is just so cool. Like now that I have my own little office, I might frame it and put it in here. That's how good of a poster I like this.
That is a very scary, terrifying poster. I am staring at it right now, and
but that gets you excited. Like, oh, how does he get out of this? You know,
this. Oh, dear God. I'm going to have to put this out on Twitter when we put this show up. But yes, by all means, you can find the poster on IMDb, and it is something to behold. But I'm going to disagree with both of you for my MVP. I'm going to give my MVP to Ernie Reyes Jr. A, he's not Rob Schneider, but B, this film doesn't work at all if Ernie Reyes Jr. isn't as good as he is. He's funny. He is, a martial arts expert. Despite the fact that the director didn't even put a lot of, emphasis into the fight scenes, he still made those fight scenes work. He has great chemistry with everyone on camera. Ernie Reyes Jr. made this film watchable. And say what you will, I will agree. It's not an 11% film. It is exactly what you want it to be. I wouldn't say it's a 63%er, but it's definitely not an 11%. It definitely is not that bad. Guys, thank you so much for making me go down this road. Brendan, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, so me and my buddy Tommy, a good college friend of mine, we lived together for 3 years, and he likes drinking beers as much as I do, maybe even more. And so we decided to start doing a drinking podcast where we take 4 beers that he gets shipped in from different parts of the United States, and we taste test them and then rank them out of 100 and tell you what we think of them. We do everything from sours, stouts, IPAs, everything in between. And there are some really good ones and some really, really awful ones. And then we even tell you about the can art, what we think about the can art, because that's how I usually base it off of, and what kind of foods we think it would go really well with it. And we also get my girlfriend to come in every now and then, even though she's off screen. She's our super producer, and it's kind of funny what faces she makes because she doesn't like beer all that much, but she drinks it because she's freaking awesome. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's on Twitch at Brizzy59 every Friday, just about, give or take, at around 5 p.m.
Okay,
Pacific time.
Greg, before we get to you, Brendan, I have to ask, what has been the best and the worst beer that you have tried?
The best, there's 2 best. And there was one that my buddy Tommy had me try before we even started the show. It's kind of what started it off for us. There was a beer that is no longer available. It was called the Peanut Butter Banana Creamin', and it was a milkshake ale. And I kid you not, it tasted like a peanut butter and banana milkshake. It was to die for. The other one that was really good, and it fits perfectly with what we're talking about in this movie, it is actually called Don't Call Me Shirley. And unfortunately, like, I was a little disappointed in the can art because they did not have Leslie Nielsen or anything from Airplane. They actually had just had a Shirley Temple on the can art, so I was a little saddened by that. But I swear to God, it was a sour beer, and I don't drink sour beers, and that thing tasted just like a freaking Shirley Temple. It was scary good. As for the most awful, I can't remember the name, but I remember I ranked it lower than a 20 out of 100 on it. And that's what it was. I even told Greg about this on Flops. It was a double raspberry cheesecake sour beer.
Oh, yeah.
It was awful. Absolutely awful.
Ugh. I was going to, when you said a beer that would have worked well for this, the first time I'm like, maybe Bromosa, which is actually out of a Michigan brewery, as I recall. But that sounds like a ton of fun. And as someone who really appreciates beer, that's going to be great. Greg, you, once again, going to tell us all about Movie Date Night and all the other podcasts that you're on.
Yeah, first of all, I want to reiterate Brizzy's thing. Super Smash Bros. Fun listen. Go check it out every Friday on Twitch at Brizzy59. I'm going to start up my own rival podcast now called Smash Super Bros, where I just get drunk and play Mario. Because why not? It's going to be available nowhere because I'm not actually going to do it. But yeah, Lauren and I, we have our podcast Movie Date Night where we share movies with each other. We're in a hiatus right now because we had a baby and that takes up some time. But he's getting more independent. He's sitting up. He's maybe learning to crawl soon. So once we get more time to ourselves and the schedule fit out more, we're going to come back. We already have one in the can where we did all the Batman films. We just haven't released it yet. But yeah, we will be coming back, and that's at Movie Date Night on Facebook and Twitter.
All right, guys, thank you so much for this. Greg, you're basically like family, so you're always welcome. Brendan, open invitation anytime you want to come back. Just drop a movie.
Tell Carrie, thank you for that mint on my pillow, by the way. That was really nice of her.
That was not a mint chocolate. She might have pooped a little.
Oh, you got rats.
Guys, thank you.
It was Mousetrap.
It was. Guys, thank you so much for this. And to you, our listeners, you guys know the drill. If you think there's a movie out there that is unfairly maligned, or you think it's so bad that there is no way in hell that we can find anything good to say about it, even if it has Rob Schneider, hit us up on Twitter at NotThatBadCast, or on Facebook at facebook.com/NotThatBadCast, or at our brand spanking new website at www.notthatbadcast.com. Let us know and we will watch it. We will dissect it and we will find the good things to say because we are looking for those A grades in B movies. That's Greg. That's Brendan. I'm Jay. You're awesome. This is It's Not That Bad. Until next time, everyone, take care.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.